Look, as I said to you on Friday, I went to Alice Springs for 3 days to bring you back to the national conversation, the voices of the people of Alice. As you'll see here, there are locals who have real solutions, if only they're listened to. Some locals too not afraid to tackle the hard issue of parental neglect and the role of child protection services. Quite rightly, a lot of the focus on the crisis in Alice Springs is on alcohol. That's certainly where the Prime Minister put his attention when he flew into town last week. If he had stayed a little longer or spoken to more people than just fellow MPs and the bureaucratic class, he would have heard people say, look, sure, alcohol is part of the problem, but it's not the whole of it. When we were out filming, and as I got around and spoke with locals, as much as I could tell, the young kids moving around in gangs weren't drunk. Now, I'm not saying they weren't drinking, but for most of them, it was the adrenaline of violence that was getting them high.
Get off him!
Alice Springs Mayor Matt Paterson.
Definitely two problems, alcohol, antisocial behaviour. Then, whilst they might be interlinked a little bit, it's not one size fits all approach here. So alcohol, yes. Do we have an alcohol problem? Yes. We're seeing a tremendous amount of domestic violence and assaults related to alcohol. But then there are the kids. What's happening with the kids? Why can we have, 50, 60, 70, 100 kids on the street every single night? Because it is safer for the kids to be on the street than at home.
Michael Liddle is a member of the Alice Springs Council. Like the Mayor, it's the kids who are his focus, especially the young boys and young men. As we started filming inside the council chambers, a group of young boys started to gather and damage buildings near our glass window. He didn't hesitate to go out and confront them. When I asked him what he'd said to them, it was about making a connection first, asserting his authority as a traditional man, and then delivering the discipline.
I know all the young fellas' family, and when I asked them what their skin name was or what country they're from, they knew straight away, so it set up a relationship with them. Oh, that's my brother, or that's my granny, or that's my Murray, or like a mother-in-law, and it sets up behaviours, patterns of behaviours. And without that conversation, without that understanding about identity, you can't have that. Conversations won't work in trying to change young people's behaviours.
Matt Paterson says money isn't the problem. It's about how that money is spent that matters.
We get enough money, as territory, as a welfare state, we certainly get enough money. But there is no accountability for these service providers in Alice Springs to deliver. They're constantly getting money. Show me the KPIs. They can't. No one knows what happens.
There are very few role models for these young Aboriginal boys, and that's an uncomfortable truth for many.
As we can see now with the ongoing troubles, we've got a lot of young men have no role models, and their role model is a big brother, an uncle or a cousin who may have took them through the business, was there for them. But when the business is finished, they follow that role model to the pub, follow that role model in doing bad behaviour. So that's accepted behaviour then. Our role models and mentors, they're not there. We lack them. We lack good role models amongst Aboriginal society.
We're talking about 10-year-olds with a machete, young children raped, girls pregnant at 13 and 14 or younger. So why is it tolerated? I asked the Mayor.
Well, I think that there are enough organisations that are funded to pick the kids up and take them somewhere. It is a point of where do we take them, because if you are in Sydney or Melbourne and there are 50 or 60 or 70 white girls with blonde hair and blue eyes that are 10 or 11 years old, they get picked up and they get taken somewhere safe. Now, the Child Protection Act is being enacted. I've seen that. I've seen that firsthand. And again, that breaks your heart. But that is the very end of the spectrum. We need the things put in place first before we get to that point. Because the discussion around, Aboriginal kids on the street is you can't take them away because everyone gets so scared about the stolen generation. These are still kids. They are little kids. They're little human beings.
It's this terror inside officialdom of not creating a new stolen generation that many say is stopping these children today from being protected as they should.
That's the hard part about it, because and it comes delicate conversations about the removal of these kids. And whilst back here we had this stolen generation thing, forcibly removed, no reason at all, by authorities towards caring parents. 2023, we have non-caring parents, parents that don't know where their child is. Well, we actually have to take these kids away and place them somewhere where they can listen to calmness, hear the noises, see visual, good things around. Because at the moment they don't see or hear those things. There's too much of the ugly noises what's going on.
It's hard not to hear these stories and feel that the only way forward is to bring in the army or the police, like we would in a place such as Solomon Islands, to help the people of Alice Springs. But we don't seem prepared to want to do that here in Australia. If the PM can spend 3 days courtside at the Australian Open, why can't he spend 3 days like I did in Alice?
Don't write us off yet, but in the current climate, I will say that as the heart of Australia, Australia does have a broken heart right now. Like, that is the reality.
And as for his voice to the Parliament, that he says will fix it all, I didn't find anyone much in Alice Springs that even sees it as relevant, let alone a way out of this crisis.
I think them people wanting the voice, they got some magnificent heads there. Some really articulate, intelligent people. And they're fine, they do that. But you still need your foot soldiers. You still need people working on the field. And if these are the tools that we're dropped with to work with, that's what we've got to do. And the voice, all the best to it. But I got a job to do.
All I can say is thank God these kids at least have men like Michael.